All right, welcome back to the Fertile Faith podcast. I am so excited today, y'all. I am super excited today because you know how much I use the word nutrition. So we have a special guest today. I'm going to let her introduce herself. And I'm just so excited to talk with Kaylee today, and she'll give you some details on who she is, what she does, and we'll get into this conversation, y'all.
Hola, it's Avi, aka Octavia Steen, natural fertility doula, health coach, and creator of the faith-based business Mother Mindset. Welcome to the Fertile Faith Podcast, a podcast that helps women of God who are trying to get pregnant naturally to overcome negative thoughts and balance her hormones so she no longer has to be overwhelmed and consumed by her TTC journey. I'm so glad that you're here, sis. I can't wait to dive into this episode.
Welcome, first and foremost.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And thank you so much for having me. This is going to be so much fun.
Yes, it is, of course. I'm so excited. I was so excited when you reached out because I'm a nurse, right? And so they don't teach nutrition enough in nursing school. We get this one class, right? This one class about nutrition, and that's about it. And so I did my research. I actually have a fitness nutrition specialist certification in order to help my husband out, who's a personal trainer. And so in learning all of that, prior to me conceiving children, right? Prior to me trying to get pregnant, I learned a lot about my body. I learned a lot about my health. And so more than what I got in nursing school. So I'm excited to talk with you specifically about fertility and fertility nutrition. So what is your story? Right? What is your story and how does your faith intertwine with it?
Well, yes, I'm Kaylee. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I'll kind of tell you a little bit about how I ended up where I am now, how I ended up working in fertility. And with that, you'll hear kind of my story. So, yes, I've been a dietitian for 10 years or just over around 10 years, just almost exactly. And I got into nutrition in college, and I kind of thought I wanted to go the whole medical route. I wanted to work in a big hospital. I wanted to, really get into the whole medical side of things. And through a series of events, I ended up working in outpatient nutrition counseling. And that's where I've spent most of my career, is in the conventional setting doing outpatient nutrition education. And Octavia, when you were saying, you didn't learn a whole lot about nutrition in school, it's kind of funny because the nutrition that I learned in school is very different than the nutrition that I'm currently practicing. So it's kind of always, for anyone who's learning about nutrition and practicing it, it really is kind of finding your own pathway through it. And that's really what happened for me. That started about 4 years ago when my daughter was born. And that's really when I started kind of having this inkling, this kind of desire to get out of conventional medicine and work more in the functional nutrition, functional medicine world. And it's been kind of a cool journey and a cool pathway towards where I am now. So, I had my first daughter 4 years ago, and I just kind of gained this new respect for the female body, the female reproductive system. I learned just how naive I was about my body. Like, I knew nothing about my body.
Yes.
I know, it's like, how did we live in a post-puberty body for 15 years and not even know what's going on in our bodies. So I kind of started learning about that. And around the same time, I ended up having a son. A couple years later, we ended up having him pretty back to back. And I was just really struggling with my body, and I just didn't feel good. And I was interested in functional nutrition, but I was also kind of scared of it. Like, I was really scared of what I was going to have to do to feel better, which sounds kind of weird, even though I was kind of like learning about it. I'm like, I don't know if I want to like really dive in, 'cause I don't know if I want to do it. Like, I don't know if I want to completely commit myself to like this new lifestyle that will probably make me feel better, but it also seems really scary.
Yeah.
But anyways, I wasn't feeling good. I felt horrible. I had 2 young kids. Sometimes I felt so horrible. I didn't even feel like I could take care of them by myself, much less have a full-time job. Um, so it was time like for me to start kind of learning about my own health journey. And what I discovered was I had a pretty suppressed stress response. I was like in like pure survival mode, which I think is pretty common for
Oh yeah.
new mothers to feel that way.
Definitely.
Um, so that's kind of how I fell into learning about hormones and really trying to make myself feel better. Along the way in my conventional job, I was offered a couple opportunities to work in women's health and like start some women's health programs. And it just kind of kept growing. And as I learned more, it was like I just wanted more information about this, like about my body, about how nutrition can impact the female reproductive system so immensely. And I was like, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to kind of branch out and start taking clients on my own using this information I've learned. And that was really kind of like the God part of the story,
Yeah.
and how it's just been, he's been opening doors for me to be able to do this. Like how we've been able to finance me not having a full-time job anymore and stepping away from like a full-time job to take this leap into private practice. How we've just, had different things come up in our life where it's all ended up working out, which has been just really cool. I think another really interesting aspect of this story of like faith and private practice and how it's all come together is initially I didn't intend on having my faith be part of my practice. That's how I was trained. I worked in a government job. In my conventional job, I worked for the VA. So there's always that separation. It's not something that you're really providing as part of your nutrition care is like a faith-based.
Right.
And the more I started talking about fertility, the more I just like couldn't not include it, because it's just everywhere you see the woman's body and like the whole conception process, and how can you not, see God's hand in all of it? And that's just where I really felt compelled. It's like, I have to, it's more than just health. This is like a ministry. This is like how you can show people God's work and his miracle. So I've been loving being able to incorporate my faith and not feeling like that's two very separate realms of my life, like work and my spiritual life. So
I love
yeah,
that.
so here's my story in a nutshell.
Yes, I love that. And I want to back up because when we talk about school and we talk about, the different things that we learned in school and how we apply them today to our, currently what we do. It's the same thing for me. What I learned in nutrition is completely different from what I, from how I healed, right? And how I help others heal. And that's just amazing how God he'll open up the door and give us kind of like a sneak peek of what we need to be doing or what he desires of us to do. But then he kind of just intertwines it into our journey and it just becomes a thing of its own. Right. But for those who don't necessarily know what functional means, functional nutrition, functional medicine, kind of, describe what that means.
Yeah, so functional medicine, or I like to call it a lot, what I kind of call it when I'm talking about it is more of like a root cause approach.
Yeah.
So instead of, looking at what symptoms you're experiencing and trying to get that symptom to go away, using the symptom as like the starting point and working backwards to understand where that symptom is coming from and trying to work on whatever the root cause of the symptom is. So a great example is heavy periods. So what is the first thing that usually women hear when they have heavy periods? It's go on the birth control pill. That'll take care of it, which of course it does, 90% of the time. But is that really fixing the problem? You take away the birth control pill and the heavy period comes right back. So a functional approach or root cause approach will look at why? Why does someone have a heavy period, and fix that? So sometimes it feels really roundabout, like, why are we talking about how I poop when we're talking about me having heavy periods? Like, that doesn't seem to make sense. But when you understand like what all connects and how our body is connected, it's not these separate systems, it's all connected, then you can start to see like, okay, like how my microbiota functions has a lot to do with how I eliminate estrogen, and having too much estrogen can create these huge problems with heavy periods. And then it all connects back together. So that's more of like a functional nutrition, functional medicine root cause.
Yeah, I love that. I love getting to the root of things. And not only with nutrition, with medicine, but also are you hearing feedback? Or
I'm
is that
not
just
hearing
me?
feedback.
Okay, that's just me. Okay. But not just with nutrition, but in our faith as well, because I feel like a lot of things when we come into just needing to heal ourselves, not only spiritually, but also physically, is a lot of things come into the root of fear. And so when we get to the root of why we're fearful of those different things, we can kind of get to the root of, how we can heal from that. And it's something that popped into my head that I always, am telling my clients, but getting back to nutrition.
And when you said that, you totally heard that in my story. Like as I was like investigating this, like there was this fear of like, I don't want to go down that pathway, and I don't want to have to do these things. And then God kept opening doors and saying like, this is what's possible, if you trust and let me guide your way. And here we are. It's really amazing when you do let go of that fear and just kind of let your path be known.
Right,
Cool.
right. And so I wanted to ask you, the next question is just tell us some of the challenges that your clients experience and how they've changed by focusing on nutrition, changed by focusing on this root cause.
Yeah. So I think that this was one of the things, like, as I was learning this, as I was investigating what was going on in my body, and I like stumbled across all this profound impact that nutrition can have on our bodies, on our health, on our reproductive systems. This is like really just seeing the immense, areas, the huge impact nutrition can have. So, one great example, I already talked about this a little bit, but irregular or heavy cycles, these erratic hormones, and how that whole system of your brain talking to your ovaries and talking to your adrenal glands can really be upset by the way that you're eating.
Yeah.
And how you can reset this. It's called the HPA axis, how it can be reset or it can be supported through the correct nutrition. And when we talk about the HPA axis, it's really a lot about stress. And immediately people think stress, like, I'm not stressed. I love, my job. I love my life. Finances aren't a concern for me. But when we go outside of like what we typically think about as stress, and we think about, well, are you eating enough? Are you over exercising? Are you taking in key nutrients that your body needs? How is your blood sugar? Are you eating like these carb rich meals and then you're spiking and crashing and spiking and crashing? These are things that your body relates to as stress. So even if you're not dealing with a lot of like physical or mental stress, I should say, you still could be dealing with a lot of physical stress. And that's what nutrition can help with too, and help with this HPA axis and help your brain speak better to your adrenal glands and your ovaries. And that can help with hormone levels. It can help with erratic periods, erratic cycles. So that's one huge way that we can see nutrition impacting fertility. I've worked with clients before where we've uncovered like completely hidden gluten issues. We ended up possible celiac disease,
Right,
it's not just an intolerance, but like no symptoms, nothing. And then we started really digging and finding out she had all these antibodies to gluten. So that was really messing with the stress balance of her body, and her periods were coming like whenever they wanted. There was no rhyme or reason
Right.
to it. So that's one of the big ways, is the stress response. We also have looking at egg quality, like how that can really be impacted by nutrition and
Mm-hmm.
what you're eating. And I kind of always shudder a little bit when I say, or think about it twice before I say egg quality, because I kind of feel like it's kind of like a infertility catchphrase, you know.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll just call it egg quality. I don't know if you've
But it's so
kind of
much
feel that same
deeper,
way.
but it's so much deeper than that. I do. Whenever I type it out, I'm like, let me go back. Like, how else can I say this? Right. But it's so much deeper than just quality. You know what I mean? Like, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. Because it just goes, the mechanisms, just to get to the point of ovulation, right? There are just so many different factors. I guess we could call the egg factors. I don't know.
Factor. I like that.
The
Yeah.
egg factor. I love that.
And yeah, it feels like, when you say egg quality, it feels like it's really static, like you can't do anything about it. And that's completely not the case.
Oh yeah.
When you are targeting egg quality and helping to improve egg quality through getting your body the right nutrients, making sure your mitochondria, which are like your little powerhouse
Yep.
in your cells, giving them the right energy and support so that they can correctly split DNA. And when you have a correct DNA, of course, you're going to have a healthier egg. So those are also really big things that can be impacted by nutrition in the menstrual cycle and
Mm-hmm.
in fertility. So those are a couple of the biggest ones. Of course,
Yeah.
we didn't even touch on some of the other things, like don't even get me started on weight loss and
Yeah.
fertility. That's like,
That's
that's one
another
of
one of
my biggest
my
pet peeves.
Yeah, that's another one of my, things that I geek out about. Just fertility in general, but just health in general. But let's get into weight loss. Let's go for it.
Okay, let's go for it.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
One of my biggest pet peeves is women coming and saying, my doctor said I need to lose X amount of pounds in order to get pregnant. It's like, says who?
Right.
Says who?
Yeah.
There's studies, of
The
course,
number
show
doesn't
that.
dictate, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it 20 pounds? Why isn't it 16? Why isn't it 34? What is it about 20? And how do they know?
Right.
Um, and then just like that blanket statement of saying like 20 pounds, it doesn't tell you how to get there. So automatically, when a woman hears they have to lose 20 pounds, they're trying to conceive and they're like literally willing to do almost anything.
Let me go on a diet, this crash diet. Let me go keto and not
Right.
know the after effects. And yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
No, you're like totally tracking with me. It sounds like we have the same like frustration with that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's like it's not about the weight. What it's about is like, let's get you eating nutrient rich foods that nourish you. Let's get you eating foods that balance your blood sugar so you're not having these huge spikes and plateaus and valleys and you're all over the place. Like, let's work on that stuff first. Who cares what your weight says? Because weight is an arbitrary thing anyways. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it doesn't make or break your ability to conceive.
Right.
So let's talk about things that actually matter, and then let's just let your weight fall where it falls and see if we can get you ovulating, if we can make sure your eggs are up to par, and just see where the number of the scale falls.
Yeah, getting back to that root cause, right? Getting back to that root cause. And I know that with a lot of my clients, it's often just a lack of education, right? A lack of knowledge in the things that they need to do. Like when we came to this, we didn't know, before we gave birth, it was like, okay, what? Our minds were blown, right? Minds were blown what we learned about our bodies. But, it takes us pursuing the knowledge and pursuing, these different ideas of nutrition and health, and not sticking with the American standard diet, or, you know what I mean? And just getting into, more in tune with our bodies and what God desires to put in us. I mean, he has, already provided us everything that we need, right? All the nutrition that we need in order to get started. And I think it's just that knowledge piece, the lack of knowledge for a lot of women. And I know that you're seeking to really change that, right?
And I think too, like, it's nothing to be ashamed of. You and I were in that exact same boat. I mean, I'm a nutrition professional and I didn't know this stuff until, it took some shaking up in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So not feeling ashamed of not knowing the stuff and just being willing to kind of come in with an open mind and learn it. And like you said, like really just embracing the way our bodies were created to be nourished, the way our bodies were created to function.
Yeah. Yeah. I know like everyone's reading, maybe reading Daniel and thinking about the Daniel fast. What do you think about fasting and fertility or fasting and nutrition in general? It's just an idea
I've
or
never gotten
something that popped into my head. I don't know if you have any specific, qualms about it.
I have never myself gotten on the fasting train myself. I've had clients who have done that, not fertility clients, but like other clients who have done fasting. And even some who have shared with me the like spiritual side of it and how it really feels like, connecting with their spiritual side, whether that's this particular person wasn't Christian, but it just was a spiritual act for him.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regards, I think there can be some use for it. Like there's been fasting throughout all of history.
Yeah.
But in terms of it providing a fertility benefit and that being the driving factor towards you using fasting, no, it's not something I would say that is going to really be part of a fertility plan I recommend.
Yeah.
Unless, like I said, it's part of your journey towards a stress release, that maybe is something that would be a way to include fasting if it's meant for a reason, outside of getting pregnant for changing your diet,
Yeah, because fertility is all about fuel, right?
Right.
Fasting is more so of like a spiritual, in my opinion, something spiritual to get closer to God and realizing what he, wants you to do next, right? And so fertility is definitely about feeling your body. And I like you said earlier, a lot of people don't do that. They don't fuel their bodies properly, with the right nutrients. They might say that, they eat enough, right? But what is enough, right?
Right.
What is enough? And it depends for each person, right? The amount of, calories or amount of food that nutrients that, people need. I hate looking at calories, I hate like just like focusing in on that, but more so focusing on like the key nutrients that you need to get into your body in order to conceive. And I wanted to ask you a question about that. Because a lot of women don't eat enough. So what kind of tips can you give them because they say them, they don't have an appetite or, they only eat once a day or they eat I'm eating my salad or I'm drinking my fertility smoothie, one in the morning and then I'm not hungry throughout the day. Like what tips would you give that type of woman?
That is such a great conversation to have. This is wonderful. Because it is, I would say probably 75% of the women I've talked to do undereat and they're just so unaware that they undereat because the message that's constantly thrown out there to women is eat less, light diet, this, that, And when you start then working with someone like you or I, and we're like, you really need to get in enough calories. High fat diets are really actually not harmful. It's kind of a whole shift in their mind. And they're like, it's scary. It's really scary. So I think the first thing that I would say is you need to investigate, like if you're saying you physically can't eat more, I think there needs to be an investigation as to why. Because I've worked with women who are eating such a little amount and physically feel like they can't eat more. And it turns out there's something else. Like they have an issue with their gut and food
Right.
isn't moving through quick enough. And there's some really severe dysbiosis and there's food issues, food intolerances. So if you're really at the point where you're like, I can't, like I physically cannot eat more, I would have your gut looked at by someone, you know, and investigate, talk to someone like you or I, or talk to your doctor to understand what's going on. If it's just like kind of more of this, that sounds really scary, then I would do more of an encouraging of like, let's just start small. Add one extra thing per day. Can you add in one snack? Can you add in a little bit here, a little bit there? And we can grow on that, because you're right. Like if we're not fueling our body, we're not fueling our fertility. That's why my course I offer is called Feeding Your Fertility,
Oh, love
because
it.
it is.
Yeah.
It's feeding your fertility. If we're not giving your body the nutrients, the calories, the protein, the fat, we're not going to be giving it the stuff it needs to make a baby.
Exactly. I love the name. I love the name, feeding your fertility, because you got to eat. You got to eat.
You gotta.
And you know, if you could, what's one thing about fertility nutrition that you think everyone should know about before we get into your course and you can, you know, tell us more about what you offer? What's one thing?
So I think the thing that I've really set off of like in this journey wanting to share is just that there are other options. I think that is one of my biggest frustrations with the fertility world, is that the option of like a root cause based approach isn't presented. It's women are told like, you can't get pregnant, try these pills, let's get you going on some hormones, let's try IUIs, let's move down the pathway towards IVF. If that is the pathway that you choose and that works well for you and your family, it's covered by insurance, for whatever reason, it just like jives with what you have going on in your life, I 100% support you on that. And I think you should do it. And I think that that's perfect.
Right.
But for so many women and families, it's a financial strain. It just doesn't feel right. You have the ethical concerns that come up, like, what if we create 10 M babies? What am I going to do with those? There's just so much to think about when you're going down that journey. And for some people, like that just doesn't feel good or doesn't feel right. And they feel like they have no other options for starting a family. So that's where I think the message of like, there's an alternative. If you want to try something different, either before or in replace of a medical treatment for fertility, there's options. There's options. I'll speak to you or I. There's many other practitioners who are doing something similar. Find someone that you feel comfortable with, that you jive with what they're offering and what they stand for, and take that pathway if that's where you feel led.
Yes, yes, there are options. I want to clap in between each of those. There are options, because there are. I love that. I love that. And you know, I 100% agree. You know, if IVF or these different types of treatments, or, you know, just going these alternative routes are what you need to do for your own journey, great. But know that you are not alone, that, you know, this doesn't have to be a financial strain on your family. You can, there's, I don't want to say nutrition is free, because it's not, you got to go to the grocery store, but it costs a lot less than IVF, right? Just to try it out and see if it works for you, right? Yeah. It's worth a try. It's worth a try.
It's worth a try. Yes.
It's worth a try. So let us know where we can find you, Kaylee, and you know what you offer here on our Fertile Faith podcast. Let us know what you offer.
Yeah. Well, again, thanks for having me and letting me talk a little bit about where I am, my journey, my beliefs, my issue or my love of nutrition and fertility. So I have a program, one-on-one coaching. It's called Feeding Your Fertility. Like I mentioned, it's a 16-week program, one-on-one. We meet 16 times. We have the option to meet 16 times, up to 16 times. And we also do functional testing to really narrow in on what we see going on with your roots. What's kind of your root cause going on with your fertility? We kind of look everywhere. It's kind of leave no stone unturned approach. So we check We check your gut, we look at hormones, we look at micronutrient deficiencies, and we look at inflammation. We really kind of go full into every area of fertility and just kind of dig around in there. With that, you learn cycle charting. So you'll learn how to track your cycle. If you're already tracking your cycle, we'll look at them together and see what kind of information we can gather from your charts. See if you're ovulating, see if you're having enough progesterone, all sorts of stuff. So we have, that is my first offering. The second offering I'm finishing up right now. It is a self-paced course. It's called the Fertile Diet Reboot, and it has 6 modules, and it goes through revamping your diet to support fertility. So we talk about micronutrients, we talk about macronutrients, we talk about like food quality and what we need to be looking for when you're grocery shopping. Like, is it okay to buy conventional? Where should I go organic? All of those kind of burning questions when it comes to what to look for in the grocery store. And then we also kind of go in a little bit towards some advanced kind of strategy. So what if you have endometriosis? What if you have PCOS? What if you have like MTHFR variation, or you're concerned about that? What types of things can you do differently with your diet to support different diagnoses that you know you have? And then how else could you like approach other types of practitioners, like a conventional doctor, about getting tests and labs and all those sorts of things to kind of piece things together a bit more for yourself. So that I'm hoping to have out sometime January, February of this year. And that is all on my website, KayleeFrazierNutrition.com.
All right. So you can find her at KayleeFrazierNutrition.com. Oh my goodness. This conversation was everything. You know, I think
So fun.
you gave a lot for people to think about, for women to think about in regards to the nutrition, in regards to what they're putting into their bodies. And I'm just so excited to hear what they're going to get from this podcast. And I'm just so grateful that you reached out and that you were able to join me today. Thank you so much, Kaylee.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness, sis. I pray that today's episode was helpful. I pray that it was helpful for you. If it was, please leave a review to help this podcast reach other TTC women of faith, and tag me at coach.avi on Instagram so I can shout you out. I can't wait to help you balance your hormones and deepen your faith so that you can get pregnant without the overwhelm. Blessings and baby dust.